What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called 3 Stories for the Price of 1. None of my I Don't Work Here stories have satisfying endings or anything like that, so I figured I'd just bundle them into one post and hope it makes for an interesting read. Story 1. The first one happened when I was managing a little mom-and-pop hobby shop while I was in college. We were located in a shopping plaza between a paint store and a discount store. My store didn't have a uniform, and since I worked with lithium grease and dirty tires, I was also the RC tech, I just wore old t-shirts to work. The discount store's uniform was a red t-shirt with the store's name on it. On this particular day, I went shopping at the discount store for some new bedding after work. I was wearing a dirty blue t-shirt and jeans with my keys clipped to the belt loop, carrying my messenger bag for school, and had a hand basket hanging off my arm as I rifled through bedsheet sets. That's when I first encountered the clueless shopper coming around from the next aisle.
Is this all you have?
I'm not paying attention because why would I?
Excuse me? Do you have any more of these pillows in the back? There's only one here.
I'm looking around before realizing she was talking to me. I don't know. I don't work here. You could ask at the counter.
You don't work here.
No, I don't.
Well,
She paused for a bit as if thinking of what to say.
you shouldn't wear your keys like that. You make people think you work here.
I couldn't say anything else to her and just kept browsing sheet sets, but I could see her standing there for a little bit, staring at me before walking away, presumably to find an employee. I don't know. Do only retail staff use carabiners for their keys? Story 2. The second happened under sadder circumstances. My grandmother got set up with hospice care in 2017, and this place was lovely to her and to us. When walking in, there was a security check-in desk. Past that was beautiful indoor patio with a fountain in the center surrounded by plants. On the other side of the patio was the nurse's station with the family room next to it. Behind this station is where the rooms were located. The family room walls were all glass. There was a couch and TV, bathroom and mini kitchen with a mini breakfast bar and a fridge. Since we were a big family, most of us stayed in the family room while others took shifts in grandma's room. Families were welcome to make coffee or bring in food and keep it in the fridge for their loved ones, etc. That's where I was. I was sipping on my cup of coffee and eating tamales at the breakfast bar with a cousin on either side of me when I looked up and saw her, the clueless griever. She locked eyes with me through the glass wall across the patio as she was making her way in from the check-in station. I was not in the mood, so I made sure to look away and not look back at her. But that didn't stop her. She skipped the nurse's station and came into the family room right up to me.
Can you heat up my coffee here?
Huh?
I have coffee in the car. Can you heat it up?
I looked around at my cousins, thinking maybe I snapped and I was imagining this ludicrous experience. They were staring right back at me, confused as heck. I don't understand what you want from me.
I bought a coffee at McDonald's this morning and it's cold now. If I bring it, can you heat it up for me here?
Realizing she thought I was a server or something, but how? Still grieving but not wanting to hurt her feelings in case she was grieving too, I said, yes, they have a microwave here, while pointing at it. You can use that to heat it up. I then walked away and sat on the couch next to my aunt's, still sipping on my own coffee. I could see her staring at me out of the corner of my eye before she awkwardly made her way out of the building. She did come back in to reheat her coffee, and I was careful not to make eye contact again. I was in my pajamas for that one. Story 3. Last year, my boyfriend's truck was giving us a lot of trouble, so we found ourselves in an auto parts store one day. I had just gotten off work and was still in uniform. Red t-shirt, khaki pants, Disney smile. The uniform of this particular parts store, however, was black slacks and a gray polo shirt. Nothing even close to mine. My boyfriend had found what he was looking for, and we joined a line of about 8 people. The store is tiny, so it looks like a lot of people, and the person at the single open register is getting some detailed service. My boyfriend and I don't mind waiting, but we can tell some of the people ahead of us are getting impatient. We were at the back of the line, so I took the opportunity to get in some cuddle time and clung to his arm as we stood there, waiting. That's when he walked in. The clueless guy. The clueless guy walked walked in, grabbed something from one of the displays near the door, and looked over to the line. I made the mistake of making eye contact, but I should have been safe, right? A girl clinging to the arm of a guy at the back of the line wearing red and khaki should be safe from the cluelessness, right? Wrong. Clueless guy walked right on over to me.
Can you open another register?
What?
The line is long. Can you open another register?
I thought maybe he was asking if another register was open, and I was just misunderstanding him because, what is it? This line is for the only register open right now. They only have one open.
You can't open another register?
No, we don't work here. That was when he looked at my boyfriend, back to me, saw the arm clinging, passed his eyes over the line, said nothing, put whatever it was back on the display, and left. Sometimes I think there might be something wrong with me, but my boyfriend assures me there's something wrong with them. God, I hope he's right. Thank you for the cute little collection of stories. They definitely do fit here. You did not work here in any of the scenarios. So yeah, thank you. This story's called, I Assure You I Know Where I Work. So, living in an area with little options for department stores led to seeing the same customers frequently, in and out of work. I work for a well-known company that has a very specific uniform. Think printed branded scarves around the neck kind of specific. I don't know. A couple of days ago, having spent enough time encountering the joys of panic buyers and stockpilers, I left the store on my break to go pick up a few items at another department store next door. Now, this store doesn't have a uniform per se, just the clothes from the section the employee is working in, plus a colored name badge for clarification. I very much do not look like I work there at all, especially with the mask I'm wearing with my work logo clearly written on the side. I picked up something from a table but decided against it and went to fold it before I put it back in the pile, because trust me, I know how awful tables can get. Every little helps. I get a tap on the shoulder, followed by the telltale clearing of a throat, which I didn't appreciate given the circumstances, so I turned around, naturally assuming I was in the way. We shall call him disgruntled customer. Quick apology later, I turned to move on as my break was due to be over pretty soon. Then another throat clearing, and I'm paraphrasing here.
I do not appreciate you ignoring me.
Oh, sorry. I just assumed you were trying to get past.
You assumed wrong. Now, help me find X product and X size since there isn't any out. You must go back and find some now.
Once again, sorry, but I don't work here. But I'm sure there will be someone nearby that can help. Once more, I try to leave, knowing I need to get back to where I actually work.
Where do you think you're going? How dare you lie to me? I know you work here because you've served me before. Now hurry to the back or I'll call a manager for your incompetence and rudeness.
Really, I don't work here. Although I may have served you at my workplace, which, to reiterate, isn't here, I really can't help you.
You work here. Stop lying to me and do your job. You young people these days don't understand customer service. I demand you help me this instant.
At this point, I really had to leave, so I quickly waved an employee that actually worked there over to deal with disgruntled customers as I legged it back to work to make sure I was back in time for my break. Didn't get a chance to buy anything I was planning on buying, but I did leave disgruntled customers spluttering in rage and a pretty notable shade of red. Little wins, I suppose. Wait, who's calling who incompetent? Frickin' doorknob. You see, you think, oh, obviously the logo on my mask shows I don't work here. My uniform doesn't match the uniform of the store. But honestly, they just see uniform, logo, employee, and that's it. This story's called Nipped a Karen in the Bud. Years ago, I worked in local news in a small southern city that was a popular tourist spot, especially among folks from the northern US. As this was a few years after the Great Recession and hospitality was the only real industry in the city, we did a lot of stories on tourism business, flights, etc. I was at the airport one day preparing preparing for a live shot and shooting some B-roll with my camera. It had the nationally recognized TV network symbol and the word news emblazoned on the side. Additionally, I had a stick microphone with the same logo attached to my belt. I was in a shirt and tie but had my sleeves rolled up and tie loosened. For reference, all airport employees were wearing polo shirts with the airport logo on them, as well as very visible ID badges. A group had just arrived at the baggage claims. I was making conversation with one person when a lady seems to literally part the crowd of people to head straight for me. This was nearly a decade before Karens were a thing, so I'll dub this lady Proto-Karen. She was in her 50s but dressed like she was 20 years younger and was wearing an overly bedazzled cowboy hat. She sounds hot. She looked as though she had lived, laughed, and loved her whole life, leaving a trail of mangled managers in her wake. She moves over to me like she has a purpose and slinks one hand on her hip. She looks at me smugly and says in a forceful tone, "Do you work here?" I say no, and it's almost as though she doesn't know what to do with herself. She sits there for a moment, staring at me, blinks twice, mutters, "Oh," and just sort of dissolves back into the crowd. To this day, I wonder what she was about to demand or complain about, because she clearly had an axe to grind. The only thing I can guess was that she had not enjoyed her flight, as a few people at the baggage claim complained about turbulence. But I'm not sure what she expected an airport employee to do about warm air rising and causing turbulence.
Stop farting so damn much, you damn farters.
What? This story's called Miss Brown. This is a slightly different one. Many moons ago, I went to a private school in the UK with an academic scholarship. The scholarship is not important in itself for this tale, but it was expected that kids who earned them were to maintain top grades and represent the school in a well-rounded, exemplary manner. Among other things, I was the stage manager for the school productions and a prefect. For those of you not in the UK, a prefect is one of the older students, 6 formers at my school, that has duties such as managing the lunch queue and supervising the library. As 6th formers, ages 16 to 18, wore suits rather than the school uniform. For girls, for that is what I am, this meant a fitted blazer, blouse, trousers, or skirts, preferably a pencil skirt, and leather shoes. Female students were also encouraged to wear a bit of makeup and heels, but this was in no way a mandate. On top of this, prefects and teachers wore gowns when going about their duty. That was one of the reasons locals to the area called the place Hogwarts. Onwards, I loved 6th form. I did subjects I actually cared about and was a senior member of an awful lot of societies, and I really liked wearing a suit. I will admit, I spent a lot of money on those clothes, and I looked good in them. I'm not especially pretty, but suits gave me an androgynous flair, and I was finally allowed to wear heeled lace-up boots. Another thing about me is I have a very loud and quick walk. The clipped beat that is generally used to signify a scary female teacher is bearing down on the heroes of teenage movies is exactly what I sounded like. On the one hand, it was embarrassing. On the other, I did have the power to silence the head of mathematics just by walking up the stairs. 2 final points. I was the head of debating and therefore spoke with an accent that had been trained to sound like it should not be challenged, i.e. posh and confident. And due to the quirks of the UK private school life, I was addressed by my last name. Here I shall call myself Miss Brown. I had a teacher named Miss Brown. She was cool. She let me play Happy Wheels in class, and I was like, there's a lot of blood, so like I don't want to get in trouble, so like I'm gonna show you, see if you're cool with it. She's like, oh, there's no blood in there. It was like just a bunch of particles that were supposed to represent blood, but like it was pretty cool of her. Anyway, that's irrelevant. All told, people thought I was a teacher, just with a really young face. What a badass. Prospective parents, teachers applying for jobs, new students. As a prefect, it was part of my duty to lead them around the school, showing them a selection of classes and extracurricular activities. Conversations often went as such.
And what do you teach?
I don't. I'm a student.
Oh, right.
Leading to an awkward silence as long as the English corridor. Somehow I feel that I was a disappointing tour guide. I refuse to believe that. You sound badass. I'm just saying. To command that sort of presence and respect at such a young age within whatever the hell you're in, that's cool. That's badass, as I said. Go, Miss Brown. Actually, Miss Brown's daughter, she moved to Europe, so she was pretty nice. She was pretty too, but very nice. She's like a year above me. This story's called, Ladies, Are You Going to Complain About a Little Extra Length? What? I was in my nearby Home Depot where I spend a lot of time, so I know to find stuff. Usually. I went down to the hardware aisle and saw a group of 4 women in their 40s to 60s. One had a machine screw, and they were looking for a big pack of them, looking terribly lost. If you know the threaded product section in these stores, it's pretty well laid out if you know how bolts and stuff work. I asked the one with the screw if she'd like some help, and she was thrilled for the offer. I took the screw to the sizing chart. Okay, so it's a 1032 1¼ inch long. I pulled a baggie with 6 screws in it off the wall, and she asked if they had big packs. I don't that length. I don't know what they're trying to say there, but they had the big pack of 1½ inch screws. I asked the group if that would be alright, and one of them said it would stick through the back. I looked back in stuff a little, finding the proper size. I handed the screws to them and jokingly said, "That's the first time I've heard women complain about a little extra length." They laughed and thanked me before I gave them my parting words. "I can't get fired for that statement because I don't work here." Edit follows. Thank you, strangers, for the awards. Oh god. No one present was harmed or offended in the story.
How do I know?
1. I was there and you weren't. 2. These were Mexican women, and they tend to have a raunchier sense of humor. 3. They asked where I was going next in case they needed more help. Guys, I appreciate the sentiment of getting offended on other people's behalf. Like, I really do. But like, with big stuff, maybe. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, when I read that, I was like, whoa, iffy. But honestly, you can get away with saying a lot of stuff if you say it the right way into the right people. Like, for instance, if I'm talking to a girl or something, like, I could say some weirdly just absurd things, but I depend on them to understand that a person normally wouldn't say something that absurd, so don't take it seriously. And it usually works out, and it's pretty cool. So just be aware, but don't be, overbearingly gross, because then it's just gross. And there's no plausible deniability there, which is how I thrive.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.